Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm going to speak about Syria and what's been going on and what's still happening and how we could have done things differently to resolve things and how we can go forward doing things in the right way to get Syria back to some sort of normal, wherever that is, and make it more stable and learn from past mistakes. Firstly, there are more than 4.7 million Syrian refugees in neighboring countries. Nearly 1 million have applied for asylum in the safety of Europe. More than 13.5 million people are still in need of assistance inside Syria. 1 in 5 people is a Syrian refugee in Lebanon. 1 in 13 people is a Syrian refugee in Jordan. Over 100,000 Syrian refugees are in Egypt. Over 200,000 Syrian refugees are in Iraq. Over 2 million Syrian refugees are in Turkey. That shows how many people are in different countries and how many people have left Syria because of the war. And it shows the huge impact the war has had and how other countries are having to deal with the consequences now. Now that we have to deal with the consequences, a lot of the refugees are children. And as I said in the Yemen podcast, that children are the next generation, they are the future, and if you don't have the children, then there won't be no next generation for Yemen or the next generation of children for Syria or other countries. A lot of the children that are coming here, they've just been neglected. They've been placed in care homes or with families and just left alone. They haven't been making sure their education is going well. They can speak the language. They haven't been getting the help, the support. They haven't been helped with what they've seen in Syria, how to deal with the trauma. And then a lot of the children have tried to, without telling anyone, tried to go back to Syria. A lot of them have failed. Some people have managed to get there. Some people they were stopped midway through, and then they've had to stay in the countries that they're in. And then we wonder why they're trying to leave when they're in safety, because we're not helping them. We're just taking them in because we want to show that we're actually helping when we're not. We're just taking them in and then leaving them aside. And we've caused the mess, whether it's the UK, whether it's USA, Turkey, Russia, Iraq, Iran, Syrians within themselves, whoever it was, all these groups and all these countries, they've all had some part to say, and other countries as well, in this crisis. And now when we have to deal with the consequences, which is just taking the refugees in, we don't want to take them in properly and look after them properly and give them a proper education and help them. And if Syria does get back to some sort of normal, wherever that is in the future, if we don't have these children, if these children aren't there to go back, then who's going to go back? There won't be Syrians. It'll just be an empty country. Also, I like to say that Syria was an amazing country before all of this, 10, 20, 30, even 40 years back. It was doing well. It was known for things, and it did have a lot of history. Like Damascus is known as the city of the jasmine, and it's one of the oldest cities in the world. And I don't even know what's left of it now. There was education institutions that are world famous, that people up until 2011 were still going to, and people still wanted to go but they can't, like Fath al-Islami, which has produced many scholars that are around the world in different countries teaching, and they say about and speak about how well and how amazing that institution is. But now I don't know what's going on with it. And then we even see a lot of the Syrians that are here, they are trying to integrate, and they're making businesses, or they're doing they're working, or you see how well they are, how welcoming they are, how hardworking they are, and we're not even trying to help them build their country back again, and send if they send them back when they can. And also, talking about the next generation, more than 50% of Syrian refugees are children. They've lost everything: family, home, school, and friends. And now that they've lost everything, they're in a new country doing well. And then once they reach 18, you start making new things on them where they might have to go back because they're not children anymore. They're not a child anymore. Like, you've helped them for maybe 10 years, and then when they've settled, when they're working, when they're a taxpayer, when they're contributing to the society, then you want to send them back, or then you want to put restriction on them. What kind of normal person with morals decides to do that? Another thing I like to say is all these countries that are part of this, like USA, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, US, and maybe the UK and other countries, you're all happy to like have a proxy war over there and do what you want to aid your benefit and strengthen your political ties. But once it doesn't work out, or once it doesn't have the desired impact, you just leave like nothing's happened, and then you don't deal with the consequences, and then the Syrians are the ones that have to deal with it. And every time there's a peace, or there's beginning to be peace, then out of nowhere a country or a government decides to do something where all the peace is gone. And this has been going on for almost a decade, and something needs to be stopped. But it hasn't. And also, I'd like to speak about all these extreme groups that are come about in Syria. Like, you're telling me that before all of this, these groups weren't there, and then out of nowhere, in this kind of environment, they've come out of nowhere. I find that hard to believe, because you've lost everything. Your country's in a war. You've lost your homes. You lost your family, and then you decide to be part of a group that does things that shouldn't be done. Maybe one or two have been created during all of this, but I feel a lot of these have been in the picture beforehand, and during this chaos they've just been sent there, and then they're doing what they want to. And not just having an impact on Syrians itself, as we've seen, children and even adults, they've been going from countries like the UK, France, Turkey, other countries. They've been manipulated, and they've been going over there with false hope to live a better life. And then you've seen the consequences. A lot of people have been tortured, used, raped. They've have to marry some of them, their brides. They're just used. And then you see children going there, and then they want to come back now, but they can't. You see all of this. This is all the groups that we've created some way or another, directly or indirectly, and this is what they've been doing. And now we have children gone. People have been brainwashed in such a way that now they're stuck to their idea, and they're just set on what they've been told. And it's also had an impact all over the world, because we've had terrorist acts carried out in different countries like UK, France, Belgium, other countries, and a lot of them have been they've been ISIS has apparently taken responsibility, or they've said they've been inspired by ISIS or whatever. And then you've seen, so this has had an impact all over the world. These groups, they brainwashed our citizens, and they've gone over there, and then they've been used, and then they want to come back but they can't. Then they've sent, or people in these countries, they've been inspired by these groups and done things which has impacted our society and lost loads of lives which could have been prevented. and people are just saying that they've been part of this what's going on, and they've just been created in Syria, which I find hard to believe. And nobody's directly addressing it. Everyone's just going onto the ground and doing this, doing that, but nobody's like doing something that does have an impact. I'm sure countries with power, if they wanted to, they could remove these groups a lot easier than they're saying they can, but they don't want to. Why do they want to? Why do they want the war to continue? What benefit is it to them? I want to know, because clearly there is a benefit, and that's why the war's continuing. That's why Syria is still the way it is, and these people that are letting it continue, they clearly don't have any morals, and they just want whatever is benefiting them. And as I mentioned, all those things that I mentioned today, and then the last point about the groups that have been appearing, all of this has had an impact on the country that I'm in, which is England. So, and we've seen the impact, and we're dealing with the impact, and then even then we don't want to say anything. We don't want our government, we don't want our MPs to say anything or take action in that country or with other countries to stop what's happening and put stop to it, so we can slowly rebuild. But nobody's saying anything, and it's been going on for far too long. And at the rate that it's going on, then in maybe 5-10 years there won't be any Syria to even rebuild. And in 2020, 500,000 people are estimated to have died directly in Syria or outside of Syria due to the war, and those lives could have been prevented, or at least a lot of it could have been prevented. 10 years has been far too long, and we need to come together and put a stop to this. The Syrians deserve it, the Yemenis deserve it, every country that's in war, they deserve peace, and they deserve to live in their country without fear of dying. Like we're in our country, UK, we're living peacefully. We're not scared to cross the road. We're not scared to go outside. We're not scared of bombs dropping on us. So why shouldn't other countries be like that? Why should other children be scared of bombs, be scared to go out, live as a child? They have to live like they lose out on their childhood. And I just want to end on this, that I'm sure everybody agrees with me. We're waiting for the day where children in Syria, Palestine, Afghanistan, other countries, they wake up to the sound of birds in the morning rather than bombs. And I hope you join me for my next podcast. Thank you.